about a problem that you have, or you're interested in some problem. You want to make it hard, you could talk about the Israeli-Palestinian. Think about some problems that you have, and see if this relates in some sense to problems in the back of your mind. Then you get a chance to tell about it, later. We'll have a discussion. So, in a very direct sense, basically true for many religions, but we're a Jewish group here primarily. Maybe some guests aren't. And what do we say? One of the cornerstone of our prayers: Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. That one is very important to me because it affirms my own use of the word one in this discussion. So wherever I come to a prayer and I read that, I think that's one in the same sense that I use it. Now, how did I get to this? Well, how did I get into the idea of one? One is very spiritual if it's God, right? One can be God. Can be in other religions. It can be the emptiness, like in Buddhism. It can be, if you're interested in physics, the quantum vacuum. It can be Tao, the Tao. People talk about that. Okay, but in a simple language to bridge all that, the way I'm using one is all there is. So if you want to think in terms of God is one, yeah, fine. Okay, so I have one other key idea. The one is spelled capital O-N-E, and the next idea is two, capital T-W-O. And two is the everyday world. Two comes out of all there is from God. So it's consistent with religious ways of looking about how God created the universe and so on. So two consists of what I call at least two agents. Two agents. Okay. What is an agent? Agent is something that's distinguishable in the sense that it has energy, matter, and consciousness. Those three things. So all of you have energy, matter, and consciousness. And so does a cow. All right? And I won't push it too hard for today because you can't do everything in one day. But so does a rock. Has mass and energy. It can have potential energy or energy. It's rolling, it has energy. And consciousness, in what sense does it mean that? We won't take that up now. So we're all human agents. But there are also other natural agents, like a dog. A dog has amazing capabilities. We're learning more and more about dogs, how they experience emotions, and there's many. Honey Loring is a dog specialist, and she can tell you lots of stories. So we have one and two. And the other key idea is that when an agent in two, like you think of humans, a human agent in two, when Adam and Eve emerged, that each agent, since it comes from one, or another way of putting it, I say one, capital O-N-E, is distributed. It means it's not like in one place, it's everywhere, and it's also within each human. Each human has God within him, and also the everyday human that we all know, which is two. So each agent has one and two. Now that is a very, very important idea, because an experience more than an idea, because in order to make a right decision, you have to have a sense that it brings you, if not connectedness to one, to God, and it's something ultimate in spirituality, then at least to a spiritual thing, like, or a surrogate, substitute for God in that case. like, if you do something and you feel a sense of connectedness to the other, that's pretty high up as a spiritual value. Because if you're connected to the other, you often may, that experience may produce a sense of connectedness to God. And certainly, if you feel connectedness to God, you're going to feel, if you finish your prayers and you really felt connected to God in this prayer room, when you go out for refreshment, you're going to tend to feel connected to the other if you stay from that, in that experience. So, connectedness with God can essentially promotes, implies connectedness with the other. And connectedness with the other can also produce connectedness with one. So, spiritual values, there's the supreme, ultimate spiritual value, connectedness with God, or one, and then there are manifestations of this in terms of things like emotion of love, there's cognition of oneness, and so on. I won't deal with all of them. And the other one important one, social experience, manifestation, connectedness with the other, in quotes, very important. The other can be another person, it can be a dog, and I suppose it could be a rock, if you really want to go with that.
Rock, yeah.
So I am an agent, and so are you. I'm a human agent, and so are you. I am one and two, both, and you are one and two, both. In fact, in the Himalayan mountains, in that area of the world, there's an expression called namaste, and they greet each other, namaste, namaste. And that really says, the one in me greets the one in you. So, we're all conscious of spiritual things, either at the highest level of spirituality, connectedness with God, or one, and at, you might say, manifested components of this. Emotion as love, as I just said, oneness, which is cognition as oneness, social connectedness, like connectedness with the other, and there are others. I won't deal with all the components. So, so up here, level one, with one. Here are the components, manifestations. Next level, you can be my front person. The next level, we have, okay, so connectedness with God. Connectedness, the second level, our connectedness, our love, emotional experience of love, emotional cognitive experience of feeling a sense of oneness. Sometimes you can feel this with your body as well, and this is called connotative. And then there's a social connectedness with the other. Those are the manifested components, level two. Now we're going to go down to level three in a little while, but what's down there are what I call moral foundations. These are actually, my colleague at NYU, Jonathan Haidt, has identified 6 moral values, you could call them, or moral foundations, which come through evolution and is inherent in people. So we'll get to that a little bit more. But you can see the higher level values are the most comprehensive, then they get differentiated, then you get into morality there, and maybe some ethics, like in business ethics, that come out of morale thing might be caring for the other, liberty, those are examples, fairness, those are transmitted through evolution but modified by culture. There's different cultures. And then we finally get down to lower values like, if you're in a business, to maximize profits. But now they add another one on maybe the 4th or 5th level down. Social responsibility of business. It's new. They talk about the double bottom line. One has to do with how much money you make. The other one is what social good you did. So you get down there, and then you go down from that. Or you might have up there, if it's a personal thing, you want to be very rich, have a lot of money. Then you go down to the next line, and you might say, well, I'm very rich, I'm going to have a startup. That's my That's my purpose. So all these are purposes, actually. Intentional, intended results. So if I have a startup, its purpose is for me to make money. Okay? If I think that way. Maybe you're not, maybe a social startup, your purpose is not to make money, but to do good in the world. So, we have things of that type. And then, okay, so you want to do a startup. But to do a startup, if you're backed up and you haven't gone to college yet, you think about, well, I'm going to take a degree in this field, which gives me a good chance to do a startup, because that seems to be a budding area, technology maybe. So I'll take engineering, and then, you know, so one purpose produces another purpose, produces another purpose, produces another purpose, and so on. And there are multiple purposes at each level. Because if you want to make money, you might also say, well, I like to get married. Maybe those are two purposes you have. Okay, so, but to check it all out, whether you're on, whether these connected purposes, by the way, these purposes, very general one, more specific, or very concrete, go to university for 4 years and get an engineering degree, very concrete. At the bottom, the actual action you take tends to be at the bottom. And then one thing produces the other, produces the other, produces the other, produces the other. So you could say, I don't necessarily recommend that students do this. It's very hard. But ultimately, the action you take at the bottom, going to engineering school for 4 years, if you want to check it out, theoretically at least, but there are surrogates for this, then you have to say, does going to college, does that bring connectedness with God? Oh, that's a hard question. So you might use a surrogate, like connectedness with the other. So that's why ultimately, since there's kind of the assumption here is that there's one supreme value that everybody holds, which is connectedness with one, all there is. Whether you call them God, emptiness, Tao, whatever you want to call them, you can. Okay? And we don't have a problem when we're in one. There are no problems in one, all problems are in two. And guess what? Since we're both one and two, sometimes we're walking around connected to one, and sometimes we lose it and we're in two. And worse than that, we're in two where we lose our connectedness to one. The best thing is if you're in two, you're solving problems, but you sort of haven't lost it. You haven't lost your basic connectedness to one. But if there's a break in your connectedness to one, you lose it, you'll have a problem. And you want to reconnect with one. Because otherwise, if you lose your total sense of one, then you can feel separate. You can feel, come in, please, no problem. If you lose connectedness with one, you can feel very separate. You might not have connectedness with the other. Be separate, could be lonely. You might be in pain, and maybe your pain could be reduced if you, and this is what happens all the time, people think about God and their pain comes, somehow they can live with their pain. So this is going on all the time. And so the idea is to cure, to take care of whatever break there is in your life that's causing you discomfort, putting you so much into two that you lose your connectedness with one. But what's the best way to get out of it? You got to solve the problem. Okay, the best way to solve the problem is to go back into connectedness with one. Then you're out of the problem, and then you come back out into two, and you usually have creative ideas. The same intelligence that created you as a person, intelligent, can pop ideas in your head. Or you may have other sources, like intuitions, but there is the thought that that ideas come from being connected to one. We don't know exactly how it comes. You can talk about different